Namaste, ladies and gentlemen. This edition of The Right Stand is a special edition dedicated to a groundbreaking CNN News18 investigation in Kashmir. In Jammu and Kashmir since 2016, there has been a severe push towards injecting venom into the blood of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, largely the youth, and of course the generation that is considered the demographic dividend in this country. The reason that after Notbandi, Hawala, fake currency, all of this did not have any purchase and drugs became the currency. But more importantly, how do I quickly radicalize a group, a generation, compared to the effort that was taken in the past, especially when the curbs have come. And then Article 370 got abrogated in 2019. And then the enemy became desperate. Terror groups decided, let's use drones, let's drop drugs and let them use the drugs as currency, an incentive to OGWs and also to the terror outfits. And along with these bricks of heroin that were largely sourced from Afghanistan, the enemy started attaching small arm fires. And since 2021, we are seeing hybrid terror as more and more foreign terrorists started getting executed or neutralized by our security forces. The challenge continues. But even as terrorism becomes an issue, look at how diabolical, how ruthless the enemy is, that they are okay to lean on narco-terror, to lean on drugs, to wipe out an entire generation, turn them into addicts, and render a society useless. These challenges are multifold at various levels, ladies and gentlemen. But let's focus on the narco-terror angle right at the top of this very special edition of The Right Stand. Anwit Srivastava was on ground, and here is a detailed report. In February this year, the BSF shot dead 3 Pakistani terrorists trying to infiltrate across the international border. More shocking was the recovery. 36 kilograms of heroin packed in 1 kilogram bags worth 180 crore in the international market. In the first 2 months of this year alone, 4 narcotic smuggling bids have been foiled, with 79 kilograms of drugs recovered. A rising proportion of the haul is heroin. It's the reign of narco terror in the valley.
The menace of drug addiction has destroyed the very fabric of the state. This was a recent observation made by Jammu-Kashmir and Ladakh High Court during one of its cases. According to some government figures, the cases of drug addiction and drug abuse in the state have gone up by 600 to 700% in the recent past.
What we have seen, there has been dramatic increase in the patient rush from last 5-6 years. Some years back we used to see only 1,000 cases per year, around 2,000, 3,000 cases used to visit to us every year. But now unfortunately it has skyrocketed and we are seeing around 15,000 to 20,000 cases.
The rise in the volume of heroin pumped into India dates back to 2016. Following the killing of Hizbul terrorist Burhan Wani, tight scrutiny of Hawala transaction left terrorists looking for an alternate route to fund terror. And they found it in the drug trade.
2017 we had started witnessing heroin users here. So, and then the trend was that there was an increase in patients also.
Since 2016, there was a huge shift from all these drugs to heroin itself. I mean, even if you ask somebody, you were using this, and this, now he will say, now I am particularly using heroin only. They don't need anything else because they get so high on heroin. And it's a preferable drug for everyone.
There's another route. Packets of heroin are dropped by drones or flung across the LOC. These are collected by a network of what are referred to as overground workers or OGWs, Pakistan-backed terror operatives. But there is a difference from the usual drug trade. These consignments are paired with small arms.
Behind me is the international borders, and as you can see across the fence lies Pakistan. If we talk about Jammu and Kashmir together, the main porous areas according to security agencies which are used to pump narco into India and which is prominent for narco trade are Handwara, Tangdhar, Rajouri, Baramulla, Poonch and Kathua. We are right now at one such spot. I'm not allowed to disclose the location, but one such spot close to which is a location which is very prominently used to smuggle narcotics into India.
7-8 सालों से पाकिस्तान की आईएसआई एजेंसीज हेल बेंट, क्योंकि हमारा ये मानना है कि जहां 35 साल की मिलिटेंसी कुछ ना कर पाई हमारी राष्ट्रभक्ति के ऊपर, वहां पे कहीं ना कहीं नैर्को टेररिज्म की उन्होंने एंट्री करवाने की कोशिश की है और उसके कारण जम्मू कश्मीर में जो केसेस, खासकर अगर हम हीरोइन ओपीएम की बात करें तो वो बढ़े।
90% of the opium is cultivated in Afghan, and through after Afghanistan it comes through trafficking through Pakistan, where it converts opium converts into heroin, and then it is trafficked or smuggled into India.
In 2020, over 36 kilograms of pure heroin was recovered from the valley, and the size of consignments is going up. 2 consignments with a value of 50 crore were recovered in Kupwara in April last year. 30 kilograms were found in Baramulla in October in bags with Pakistani markings. 36 kilograms of heroin was recovered in February this year from Samba. A narco-terror funding module of the Lashkar-e-Toiba was busted just last month. While smuggling has gone up, so have the seizures.
We have cracked down, we have arrested various drug peddlers, various consignments also. The Pakistani trucks took it under the cover of fruits and dry fruits and all, and we recovered. These trucks are still there, lying there at our police station. So main focus, main portion, the biggest portion shall be of Pakistan.
Use of drones along the LOCs to drop off these drug consignments from Pakistan into India have become very common. What's more worrying is the security agencies say that often these consignments are accompanied by cache of arms, mostly pistols. While these pistols go to militants directly, the overground workers or small-time drug peddlers sell these drugs, narcotics, to get money. Even though the cases have gone up, security agencies say that so has gone up the crackdown, the FIRs, the seizures and the arrests. But looking at the rising number of drug abusers in J&K, are these crackdowns enough? Only in time to come we'll see if the government lays down any policy stringent enough to put these rising cases completely to rest. In a special report with video journalist Arjun Singh, this is Anvit Shrivastava from CNN News 18.
So what have Anvit and Arjun Singh gone down on ground and blown the lid off? This is the CNN News 18 mega exclusive. So let's do a quick recap. We've blown the lid off the heroin and arms, the entire conduit and this entire narco terror operation. Start journey is from Pakistan. That seems to be the mastermind. The contact is in POK, who transports the consignment through porous stretches on the international border and the LOC into Jammu and Kashmir. Now, where do these come from? These consignments are collected from the seller, who is directed to arms buyer and also by a handler. So this is the network, how it works. The arms, and what does he do? He delivers the arms as is required, and the drugs are sold as payment. So drugs are being used even as currency. So you keep a portion for yourself as your cut, you sell the rest, get the money on the ground. So you are also infusing and increasing the spread of the drugs into in the market, in the area, in the region, and then you're using that to also radicalize and recruit. On the map, let's try and understand this. Where does it originate from? The syndicate members are operating from the UAE. You have Pakistan as the mastermind, and of course Kashmir is where the handlers are. So the handlers are also in touch with the syndicate members in the UAE. The masterminds are in Pakistan. And of course the UAE syndicate is in touch with the Pak mastermind and how it is all orchestrated. So let's try and go across to Anvit Shrivastava, who's joining us live. Anvit, it's a very, very in-depth investigation. But the larger challenge that we are seeing, the larger challenge as we see, Anvit, is that more and more youth, these cases are going up. Nearly 35 to 40% of the addicts are actually youngsters, less than 20-25 years old. And they include women too.
Yeah, see, that's what the worrying part is, Anand, because 1/3 of these drug abusers is what the NGOs and activists say who are working in this area. They say that 1/3 users of 1/3 patients of drug abuse are women, even though they are not coming out as openly as men do because of the the stigma attached to usage of drug abuse, use of drugs in the case in the state, or related mental health. But yes, this is true that young children are coming out. When we spoke to doctors who counsel these patients, they said that they have seen cases as young as a child as young as 10-year-old or 12-year-old have been into drug addiction. In fact, we met one of the patients and we recorded his testimony on record. He is saying that he started drugs when he was in 6th standard, so he would be around 12 years of age that time, and that is when he straight away went on to hard drugs like heroin, and that is why he has been struggling for the past 8 to 10 years to get out of this addiction. He's been admitted to the drug rehab center for the past 6 years, and now he goes for a regular counseling. And that is why when we speak to these families, not only health implications, many of them is definitely there's at least 60 to 70 percentage of these drug abuse patients are suffering with critical illness like hepatitis C, hepatitis B, and even HIV, because the IV that they use, the injections that they use, because of that is mostly infected. All of them share it, and that is why the number of hepatitis B and C patients have risen in Kashmir like anything. We also approached health department and we spoke to one of the senior officers, and he told us that he foresees a severe health crisis in Kashmir in the coming years. In fact, he said that he foresees that there will be several cases of ALS, acute liver failure cases. So that is one another concern which is if you see.
Yes, so the health concerns remain, that those who are the demographic dividend, the future of Bharat, their health and their well-being becomes a concern. But the other aspect, and perhaps the more dangerous aspect, is that these people are very, very vulnerable. They are literally at the mercy of those who are going to give them a quick fix. And to get that fix, because heroin addiction is so severe and so acute, that to get that fix, they can be desperate to do anything. And such people will do anything. And when they do that, they are going to unleash themselves upon society. And they will not even know why they're doing what they're doing, because all they're obsessed with is to get that fix. So this is the game that's being played. So at various levels, society gets corrupted, society gets tainted, and more importantly, society gets infused with venom and society is bled. Anvit, stay on with us through the course of this entire episode of The Right Stand, because we're going to continue to focus on this story. This is the one single large debate. We've got other stories to cover, but we'll do that later on. But here, let's try and go across to Lieutenant General P.S. Jaswal, SP Wahid who was there this morning when we broke this story here on CNN News 18, who's joining us this afternoon. Ahmed Ayaz, political analyst. Dr. G. Srikumar Menon, IRS. He's retired former Director General, National Academy of Customs, Indirect Taxes and Narcotics from Faridabad. And I also have Arjuman Makhtoumi, who's the founder of Chote Tare Foundation. Namaste to all the gentlemen. Thank you very, very much for making the time and also for joining us on this very, very special episode. General Jaswal, you have served there. SP Wahid, you have served there. So I'm going to ask you two gentlemen to first lay out threadbare how serious, how big this challenge is. General Jaswal, were drugs there when you were also Northern Army Commander? Were they so rampant? Because I have seen others like Farooq Renzu Shah say that in the past, politicians were using this as a tool to recruit.
Anand, firstly, thanks a lot for getting me over. Let me tell you, when I was there, this was not in the form of epidemic. Today, the status of drug abuse, the scourge which is there, it is in the form of a pandemic. This took off subsequently, and as a matter of fact, let me connect the dots as to why this is manifested so exponentially as of now. If you recall, in 1991, Nawaz Sharif, in his interview to Washington Post, had said, we use drug money for covert operations. Now, in any form of warfare, now this is hybrid, you don't reinforce a failure. They failed in conventional war, they have failed in their terrorist attacks, they are being decimated in huge numbers. So they've switched the strategy to pump in drugs. which is the easy way of, I would call, creating firstly dependency and then what to call, they become desperate. Dependency to desperate. This is exactly replication of what happened in Punjab. So they switched their strategy. That's the reason from 2016, where only about 489 people were there.
Right.
Today there are good about 10,000 people. 6,000 are being treated. So what Pakistan has done, it's now become, it was always instrument of the state policy. And they have changed the tactics, gone on to that philosophy of kam kharch bala nashi, though it is expensive, but it is expensive otherwise for Pakistan, because if it sends terrorists, it gets labeled in the international market that you are sponsoring terrorism. Drug, I mean, they're just managing to send it. And we have got a porous border. Let's not look at J&K alone. J&K by battalion was there in Kupwara in 2018. They had an encounter on the LC and they recovered 5 kgs that time. Today it's coming to huge numbers. You go along entire border, you go to Gujarat, Kundra, 3,000 kgs. You go towards Bangladesh, you go to Nepal. All these places the drug is coming, and ex-CM of Punjab, Maharaja Amrinder Singh, he had warned that drug abuse is increasing in Punjab, and this is for Punjab as also J&K. So this is their change in strategy, and they are selling drugs.
No, but then it is also it's also surprising that how come we are none the wiser? How come we have not woken up to this big challenge? Now, CNN News 18 has access details of the Kupwara police's charge sheet. Now, there's a reason why we are saying that this is a modus. This was because this found its way even into the charge sheet back in November 2021. I have a copy of the charge sheet, ladies and gentlemen. And here's what the charge sheet says. There's been a recovery of arms and drugs in the Karna area. It's a special NIA court in Baramulla where 6 people were arrested and 3 handlers were presently based in POK. So they have been named. And what does it say? It says a huge cache of arms, ammunition and narcotics in the Karna area was recovered. What was recovered? Accused the 3 persons and their handlers. And what did they find? They found that this was a deep-rooted conspiracy for procuring arms, ammunition and narcotics from across the LOC and then supplying it to terrorists active in the valley. The narcotics drugs were sold for generating funds in J&K and other parts of India in close association with operatives of banned terrorist outfits like Lashkar-e-Taiba based across the border in Pakistan. And later on, in the further down in the paragraph, they even mention what kind of drug. They say brown sugar. 1 packet of brown sugar in 2021. 1 packet is a lot of money because right now it's about 6,000 rupees per gram. That's the cost, ladies and gentlemen. 6,000 rupees per gram is the cost in 2022. In 2016, it was just about 2,500 rupees per gram. So if it's a 1 kg brick, you can do the math and see how much money is coming in via drugs. SPYC, this is a huge, huge problem. And how do you stop somebody? How do you know which person and who is carrying a small brick rolled up in clothes, rolled up in food baskets or bread baskets?
Mr. Narasimhan, it's a huge, huge challenge. In fact, not only to the security agencies and J&K police, but the whole society. In fact, it has to be fought at the multiple levels, including the societal level. And I agree with General Jaswal. It is a abhorrent policy of the deep state of Pakistan. General Musharraf had made it clear much earlier. And we have been watching it for last 2.5 decades how drugs were being. But now, with tightening of certain things, the dependence on drugs has become even more. You had fake currency coming in. Yes. You did. You stopped that by money. By those notes, notebandi,
demonetization, yeah.
And the demonetization. Then I saw it, the international trade being used when I was DGP. I recall about 70 packets of heroin were seized from a truck in Baramulla. So they were using the drug trade, and we took up matter with the government of India. It was stopped. Now they are resorting to using of drones, using of the tunnels, using of other means. The only tactics are being changed, and now availability with Taliban coming in Afghanistan, availability much easier, and Pakistan itself is facing for last 2 years a severe crunch of cash, severe crunch, their economy, and it is pure narco-terrorism. In fact, the ISI has become the fulcrum of international the drug syndicate, drug cartel, and it is reaching UA, your report itself, and that is absolutely correct. We had seen earlier with each infiltrating group some amount of fake currency. I recall in late 90s and early 2000, every group infiltrating was bringing some fake currency and the drug packets of heroin and other drugs, but the scale itself today is showing the number of cases. From 600, 700 per year, the numbers have risen to 15,000. Can you imagine the scale? So how much amount is getting percolated in the society, and it is destroying. I have been telling the youth of Kashmir that Pakistan deep state is no friend of yours. They just want to achieve their strategic goals. They are no friend of yours, and they are out to destroy the society, complete youth of future of Jammu and Kashmir. And this they have done few years back in Punjab. Today it is happening in Jammu and Kashmir. I will be surprised if Rajasthan tomorrow, Rajasthan and other states, bordering states also get infected by this.
But my simple point is कि जो कौम के अंदर ड्रग्स बेच रहा है और ड्रग्स फैला रहा है वो कौम का दोस्त कैसे हो सकता है? It cannot be. It's not possible. Inside any society, any people, if you are responsible for percolating or pushing drugs, then you are not a friend of the society, nor are you a friend of people. So you are as devious and as, in fact, more than a terrorist, because a terrorist will go there and shoot 4 or 5 people, claim a few hundreds in certain cases, but this is destroying thousands and lakhs of lives. Not just lives, but along with them, their families also. You're destroying an entire society and you're corrupting it. That's what you're doing. That's how bad this is. Arjuman Maktoumi is with us. Anvit is also with us. Arjuman ji, who are these people and इनको कैसे आप लोगों ने बचाया? How have you helped save them? Were there those who were involved in anti-society activities, stone pelting, working as OGWs, and also perhaps on the throes of getting radicalized and becoming terrorists? And was this all because and somewhere underlying common thread was heroin addiction? क्या आपने ऐसे cases देखे?
Yes, thank you so much for this evening, and I completely agree with Mr. S.P. Ved, because he served a lot in Jammu and Kashmir, and we have right now a big challenge. Unfortunately, जहाँ पे लोग development की बात करते हैं, education की बात करते हैं, but unfortunately पिछले 30 साल से जब हम देखेंगे, हम लोग इस चीज़ में गिरे, वो आप मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग के मामले की बात करें या पहले ड्रग्स की बात, वेपन की बात करें या और कुछ, हमारा जो जम्मू कश्मीर का यूथ है, अनफॉर्चुनेटली वो दिन ब दिन इन चीज़ों में मुलव्वस हो रहा है, विच इज़ वेरी अनफॉर्चुनेट, और ये बड़ी इस पे सोचने वाली बात है, एंड बहुत ही बड़ा चैलेंज है, जहाँ पे अभी हमें अपडेट दे रहे थे आपकी 79 kgs जो कुपवारा से पुलिस ने रिकवर किया, या हमारी आर्मी जो वहाँ पे BSF हैं, CRP हैं, वो रिकवर करते, बट क्वेश्चन इज 79 अगर वहाँ से 79 kgs अगर वहाँ से कलेक्ट किया गया, लेकिन कितना ड्रग्स हैं जो जम्मू कश्मीर में पहुँचता है, करेक्ट, जो अभी हमारे बच्चे लेते हैं, जहाँ पे लोग ईद मना रहे हैं। 2 दिन पहले की बात है, हमारी जो अरफा था, अरफा के दिन मेरे नेबर में एक बच्चे की 26 ईयर ओल्ड हैं जिसने ड्रग्स बहुत ही ज़्यादा लिया था, जिसकी वजह से उसकी डेथ हो गई अनफॉर्चुनेटली। सो ऐसे ही हम रोज़ केसेस देखते हैं, बड़ा फील होता है, बड़ा दुख होता है कि जहाँ पे वाजपेयी जी ने बताया था कि आप दोस्त बदल सकते हैं, हमसाया नहीं बदल सकते हैं, लेकिन हमारे हमसाया जो है वो आई डोंट नो, वो इस जम्मू कश्मीर को इस चीज़ के लिए एज अ मंडी क्यों यूज करते हैं, विच इज वेरी अनफॉर्चुनेट। एंड जैसे कि आपने बताया कि आपका दोस्त जो होता है वो बड़ा ही आपके लिए बहुत ही अच्छा सोचे, और
Correct.
हमारे मजहब में भी यही है कि आप अपने हमसाये के साथ एक बहुत ही बेहतरीन सलूक करें। आप जो अपने बच्चों को दे रहे वो अपने हमसाया को दे। बहुत ही अनफॉर्चुनेट है। एंड जिस हिसाब से हम लोग केसेस रोज देखते हैं, जिस हिसाब से हम देखते हैं कि जो माए हैं वो कैसे यहाँ रोते हैं। रिसेंटली ईद से पहले मैंने एक केस देखा जिसकी माँ रो रही थी, बोल रही थी मैं अब खुद इस बच्चे के लिए खरीद के लाती हूँ। एंड अनफॉर्चुनेट इस मतलब इट्स अवेलेबल आई थिंक एवरीवेयर। एंड गर्ल्स आर आल्सो टेकिंग, जो 12, 14, 15, 18, 20, 25 साल की लड़कियां आज के डेट में हमारे यहाँ ड्रग्स लेते हैं। एंड जो रोज हम फेस करते हैं, एंड अब जहाँ पे आपका एक ड्रग एडिक्शन सेंटर होना चाहिए, लेकिन इतनी बुरी हालत है, हम लोगों को ड्रग एडिक्शन सेंटर उस तरीके से आज के डेट में डिजाइन करने पड़ते हैं जैसे कि वो जेल है। Yes.
No, I understand, because the pressure is so huge, because people did not realize that how big the actual problem itself is. 12, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20 साल के बच्चे, if these people get into the throes of drugs for a quick fix, they will do anything. If a mother is turning around and saying, I have started procuring for my child because I can't see my child like that, imagine the effect of this, and what those people who control the fixes, who can say, show them the fix and say, do this and I'll give you this fix, what they will do. And with quick word before we get into the terror offensive, and I bring in Mr. Sri Kumar also.
Yeah, see, definitely, because these women who we met, we met a couple, a husband and wife, and the wife said that the husband has not been giving any money at home, and it's been, they have spent in 3 years, they've spent 60 lakh rupees. That man had spent 60 lakh rupees in past 3 to 4 years just on these, on procuring heroin, because he could not stay a day without heroin. So this is the kind of addiction that heroin is grappling people in Kashmir with. And also, apart from this, when we talk about health complication and financial complications what the family is going through, apart from that, when you mentioned terror angle, another aspect is very important, that we mentioned the recent charge sheet that we had shown on the channel. But apart from that, another claim of the police that establishes the Pakistan link, very important link, is that last month Budgam police had also arrested 4 men, and in their investigation they have clearly mentioned 2 lines which are very instrumental to our expose. They have said that preliminary investigation reveals that the arrest of terrorists associated were involved in providing logistical support to proscribed terror outfit LAT by distributing proceeds of narcotics to the active terrorist and terror outfits in the state. Investigation also revealed that the module had been working on direction of terror operatives in Pakistan. So this is very clear that Pakistan had been behind this, and all the drug abuse, that the number of drug abuse, drug patients that have risen in Kashmir, it is clearly because of more and more heroin is coming into the state. Also, the doctors we have met, they have said from all the drug users, 95% of them are heroin users, and that is why after 2016 we see that such a drastic rise in number of heroin users. Particularly the total number that has gone up is only heroin user, and all this heroin is only coming in from Pakistan and from across the border from Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir.
Right. So, and let's try and look at some of the numbers as I go across to Mr. Sri Kumar, just capping up on some of the numbers, and this is what the terror offensive. There is heroin that's being seized. Nearly 2,700 crore worth of heroin has been seized between August 2020 and July 2021. So in that 1 year period, this is peak of lockdown, ladies and gentlemen. Peak of lockdown, this is the amount of drugs that was doing the rounds. Huge seizures have been made by the Delhi police also, Department of Revenue and Intel. And ISI, Khalistan Liberation Force, are the ones who are masterminding these operations. The heroin is smuggled in or airdropped via drones. The origin and the route is Afghanistan, Taliban-held areas, via Iran, or Afghanistan, Pakistan, POK into Jammu and Kashmir. Destination, Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Delhi, and even now you'll be shocked that it's now the new stronghold is Shivpuri in Madhya Pradesh. So it's the heart of India where again these drugs have come in and they have started sitting there. So that's the other aspect which becomes very, very, very interesting and very, very worrying. Dr. G. Sri Kumar Menon is with us Thank you for your patience. But how is it that so much contraband is coming into our country? And experts, I have spoken to Mr. B. Kumar of the Narcotics Control Bureau, and he also says the amount of drugs that we have caught is not even 4 to 5% of the amount of drugs that is coming into the country. So if you were to juxtapose that into Jammu and Kashmir and in Punjab, one wonders what's the amount.
Anand, good evening. Thanks a lot for this invitation. See, Afghanistan has had a bumper crop last year of opium. And all agencies, not only in India, but all over the world, have been keenly watching as to how these drugs are going to come out of Afghanistan and where it is headed to. Now, if you take India, in the last 1 year, like you pointed out exactly, 2021 onwards, right from Lakshadweep down south to Mundra, we have made massive seizures from the maritime domain, which was not there earlier. Today also, there has been a major seizure in Mundra.
Yes.
Now,
70 kilos plus.
See, yeah, 70 kilos. Now, you see, according to my modest estimate, India is now sitting on a stockpile, mark my word, stockpile of over 5,000 kg of heroin, which has simply come to us.
5,000 kg of heroin?
Yes, more than 5,000 total. You just total up all the cases.
1 kilogram
Mundra
of heroin is nearly 6 crores now.
Yes, Mundra seizure itself was 21,600 crores.
Yes.
Even your state governments don't have such a budget, you tell me.
Yeah.
And Anand, another thing what we have to bear in mind is most of the terrorist movements across the world, not only in India or in Kashmir, they are all self-financing movements now. Like previous times, no other intelligence agency can subsidize all these operations. So what is happening is, this narcotics trade has taken over as the principal medium of financing any movement anywhere in the world. And Kashmir is no exception to that. Now, all of us in the enforcement agencies who have been keenly tracking this movement of narcotics, we have been going by the NCB report, which said that as of today, the consumption of narcotics in India of all types has seen a 300% increase.
My God.
But today, your team, Anvit and his team, has literally taken us up, not only in India, but I'm sure all over abroad. All the agencies are shocked that he has come up with such a mind-boggling figure. But it should not surprise us also, because I told you in the beginning that Afghanistan has had a bumper crop. And it is bound to come into India, and we are seeing huge consignments. The consignments that are coming by container loads into our country is massive and mind-boggling.
Yes.
The question is, we have still not been able to decipher who is the kingpin who is financing these operations.
Correct.
And now the latest development of drones. See, we need not be surprised, because the Americans have been suffering that for quite some time.
Yes, from Mexico.
Drones from Mexico. And mind you, the drones that the Mexicans are operating, each drone can carry 60 to 100 kg of drugs, in addition to small arms. So, the drones must be coming into Kashmir. Whatever we are catching also, we don't have that kind of a anti-drone mechanism now. Nowhere in the world. Everybody is expecting.
You have to shoot it down physically. That's what the BSF is doing right now. While the BSF and the armed forces, what they're doing is right now they're shooting it down physically. How many drones can you shoot? And there again, it's the same proportion. Each drone would have made at least 10 drops before it is shot down. 10 drops, and if it's carrying a payload of 8 kilos or 10 kilos, that includes, say, one rifle, some cartridges, and at least two bricks of heroin. Imagine the amount of drugs that are coming in. And that's a huge issue. There is the social and the human angle which you want to play out, but I want to bring in Ahmed Ayaz quickly, and then we'll play out the actual impact on the human impact too. Shri Kumar ji, please wait. Yes. Ahmed Ayaz ji.
We saw guns coming in to Kashmir somewhere around 89 and 90. When we practically saw that, guns are inside. And some people say it was even before planned by the Pakistan and something was happening. Thereafter, it was very clearly said, reported that it is being done to coming across the border. And there also recently when, this killings take place, this isolated, this targeted killings took place in which Rahul, person, and Amrina, so many wives got killed. And then I heard in a statement the BJP local president, JNK president, Mr. Rana saying that this too was planned in the Pakistani. I don't exactly remember the name of the operation he gave. He named even the operation also. And even today also we see that the narcotics is coming from across the border. But the point is, if you know there is an active enemy standing in front of you, today it's a narcotics, yesterday it was something, the day before it was something, and tomorrow it can be something. Question is, what is the thing to be done? How to deal with this? You see, today it's a matter of Kashmir. And if God forbid this narcotics continue, and it can spread over throughout. Kashmir you may take lightly because of I don't know what reason, political or whatever, but it can spread over the entire country. Then what is the combat and what are the people tackling this issue? If you know that this is coming across the border or from some other agencies, and then what is do you wait something to happen and then we will wake up, as it has happened when the gun came in 90, and then we said it's being done, and we started combating with the military armed security operation. Question is, why are not we so active and so intelligent about these things, knowing that there is an enemy in front of us, and keep on eyes what are they doing, and to see that what are our protections actually, to see that these things don't happen in the country.
No, so you're saying why can't we take action? Why can't we nip this in the bud? Why do we have to wait for it to become a problem such कि जैसे कहें कि पानी सर से ऊपर चढ़ गया उसके बाद आप तैरना सीख रहे हैं? So why should it be a situation like this? Is a question you ask. We just wanted to put out the impact on society, the human angle to it, because it's not just destroying individual lives, it's destroying families, ladies and gentlemen. Have a look at this, and then we go back to our panel. This packed room is a common sight at the de-addiction center of the Government Medical College in Srinagar. The daily lines are growing longer, the patients younger. Kashmir is fighting a war within. In 2016, this center had less than 500 patients. By 2017, the number had grown 7 times to 3,500. In 2 years hence, the figure doubled. Last year, 2021, the number crossed the 10,000 mark. The number of addicts have risen 20 times in the last few years. Disturbingly, doctors say at least 95% of the patients are heroin users.
From last couple of years, we have been seeing patients who are usually heroin users, predominantly heroin users. If we see 100 patients in our OPD, so out of 100, there would be 95 patients who would be heroin users.
There's a huge rise of patients in our drug abuse. When we talk about substance abuses, if the patients comes to I think in a daily basis, we are dealing with many and many more cases, and every day.
Shockingly, some heroin addicts are as young as 10 years, and women are equally drawn into the net.
किस उम्र में शुरू किया?
मैं उस टाइम 15 साल का था।
अच्छा, तो स्कूल में थे आप उस समय?
हाँ, स्कूल में।
किस ड्रग से क्या शुरू किया था?
पहले मैंने कैनबस से स्टार्ट किया, दो साल तक मैं वही पी रहा था। तो उसके बाद मेडिकल ड्रग किया मैंने यूज़। 2016 में स्टार्ट हो गया हेरोइन का।
अगर 10 में देखेंगे तो 9% यहाँ पे सारे लोग करते हैं, क्योंकि इसमें फीमेल्स भी होते हैं, इसमें मेल भी होते हैं।
सब कुछ बर्बाद करता है, सब कुछ, जान भी, घर भी और सब कुछ। ये बहुत गंदा चीज़ है। लगभग 40 लाख नुकसान हुआ है।
It's easy to become an addict. Access isn't difficult.
it's very easily available. Administration should definitely curb the availability so that, I mean, a patient who gets back to home should feel it's very hard to get it. But unfortunately, it's available every nook and corner.
अपने डीलर्स होते हैं हमें, उन्हीं से हम अवेलेबल करते हैं सब.
इजीली अवेलेबल है कश्मीर में?
कश्मीर में तो अभी इजीली अवेलेबल है सर.
हमारा जो रिसेंटली एक इंटरेक्शन हुआ था स्टूडेंट्स के साथ, तो मुझे वहाँ से फीडबैक मिल गया कि वहाँ स्कूल में वॉशरूम में यूज़ किया जाता है ये सारी चीज़ें. दैट मीन आज की डेट में ऐसे अवेलेबल ये चीज़ हैं कि लोग कहीं पे भी ले सकते हैं इस चीज़ को.
35%, more than a third, of those in rehab last year were students. 60 to 70% of them suffering critical illnesses like hepatitis B or C and HIV. This has packed almost every de-addiction center in the state beyond capacity. And this only means a huge challenge for the state health department.
Drug de-addiction centers in Kashmir are running out of capacity. We are in one such center, and you can see behind me all the beds are occupied and in fact preoccupied because the number of patients of drug abuse dropping in is huge. If experts and doctors are to be believed, they say that it was in 2016 since when the drug abuse patients have been dominantly been heroin users.
Many serious instances that we've seen. However, what I do foresee is a possible increase in the number of ALF, acute liver failure cases that might arise out of all these hepatitis C patients, which will whose condition will worsen if they don't stick to the regime.
The fallout of narco terror, the inevitable impact on a young population, rising use and easy access to drugs is a dangerous cocktail. But some stories show the way out.
बहुत वर्स्ट लाइफ मैंने देखी हुई है. मैंने 5 रुपए मांगे हैं लोगों से कि भाई मेरे को 5 रुपए दे दो, सिगरेट पिला दो. मैंने हाथ फैलाए हैं, मैंने पैर पकड़े हैं, पेडलर्स के, डीलर्स के पैर पकड़े हैं. मैंने अपनी इज्जत बेच के नशा किया. अगर आज की बात करें तो सबसे बड़ी चीज़ है इज्जत. मैंने अपनी इज्जत बेच के नशा किया. तो मैं नहीं चाहता कि कोई और अपनी इज्जत बेचे और नशा करे. अगर नशा करना है तो भाई अपनी इज्जत बेच के करनी पड़ती है. आज के दिन मेरे को इज्जत नहीं बेचनी पड़ती. आज के दिन इज्जत करते हैं लोग. मेरे को बोलते हैं कि भैया आप हमें अपनी तरह बना दो, आपने जैसे छोड़ा है. तो उस चीज़ में बड़ी ज़्यादा खुशी है. हम आपको रोल मॉडल मानते हैं.
Well, I'm absolutely gobsmacked, and I'm getting goosebumps listening to these kind of narratives. I wonder, Anvit, what you would have seen, and all those, Makhtumi, you're dealing with these people every day. There are so many cases, and you're saying on festive days people are getting overdosed and they're losing their lives. That's the kind of situation. How did it come to this, General Jaswal? How did it come to this? How is it that we are allowing narcotics to get into our society so deep?
You see, I strongly believe people are the center of gravity. The youth form a very, very important component of a change in trend of societal behavior within the society itself, the social fabric which is there. The handlers who are there in Jammu and Kashmir at the behest of Pakistan, they have been psychologically indoctrinating people, the youngsters, to get into this kind of a thing. There is a folly on our part, for that matter, because if the child has not been told like that old fear which was induced, Gabbar aa jayega. If people are told right at that nascent age that sorry, these are wrong things, you will destroy yourself, these are side effects. Have we taught them in our syllabus? Have we had social meetings? Have the families tried to spend time with the children and tell them that this scourge can destroy you, destroy us? So that is the reason it caught momentum and people took it as a macho thing. to take this drug abuse. I think there has to be a strategy which has to be worked out, and people, again, I say, are the center of gravity.
But no, the people are the center of gravity, but somewhere people in the system, SPYG, see people in the system, politically and bureaucratically, administratively, somewhere some people were aware and they have allowed this to trickle in. While there are others who are trying to fight this and crack this down, there are those who are profiteering out of it and who have allowed this. We need to expose them also.
Absolutely, Mr. Nasiman, I completely agree with you. It cannot happen without local people, and some of us are definitely involved with this. Some of us are making trade and profit out of it and destroying the social fabric. In fact, एक famous saying है, किसी society को तबाह करना है, उसको नशे की आदत डाल दो, and that's what Pakistan is doing, and we have to fight it at multiple fronts. That's why I repeatedly say, don't leave it to only police and health department. I recall, I'm happy that the health department has come up with a lot of now drug de-addiction centers, but initially when we were confronted with this situation in early 2016 and 2017, we had one center established in Srinagar Police Control Room and one in Jammu Police Line.
Right.
And that's we made a beginning. And I have interacted with many of these young addict boys. Many of them, when they go back to the society, gets again
into the throes of addiction.
Yes, and it is horrific to listen to them. And now, as you rightly said, it is not one life lost; the whole family gets destroyed.
Lost.
Imagine the pain of mother, sister, and father. They have all the hopes on these young boys, and they are being caught very young in the schools. See, one of the speaker was mentioning that rooms of the schools and colleges are being absolutely. I also had this information. Similarly, radies outside the schools.
Correct.
That is how you start. They are the suppliers, and many of the places policemen know it and they take action against. But it is just tip of iceberg. It cannot be possible that society doesn't know it.
No,
after all, kisi corner pe, if it is being supplied, the people in that area know who is supplying, and that's what.
True, and but I think that along with Swachh Bharat, which ensured our streets are and places are clean and your sanitation and hygiene is there, now there has to be another big sweep that has to happen across our country to rid us of what Mr. Srikumar is saying, around 5,000 kilograms of contraband of various types, if not more, and we need to do it like yesterday. Not even at the earliest, it should have been done at a war footing. Let's hope we are able to try and get some kind of impetus and some kind of action going on ground, and there are more people and of course there are more facilities to be able to deal with the kind of addiction who we can bring back into the mainstream and rid them of this addiction. I thank all our panelists. Thank you very much, and with great job done along with your Vijay Arjun, and to all those who helped us in this investigation. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to take a very, very short break, ladies and gentlemen, here on The Right Stand. When we come back, all you want to know about why, or all you need to know about why Lawrence Bishnoi wants to target Salman Khan. We'll tell you the details. And of course, what's this about the emblem and why so? Simhanad, when we come back. Stay with us.